Okay. So we're going to be setting up GitHub, and what GitHub is, I'll do a quick sort of explanation of what GitHub is and why we're going to use it, because it's actually kind of an important tool, but it's not really the main focus of the class. So let me do, I'll just talk about what version control is for a second. So I'm going to use my little screen brush. I'm going to go into whiteboard. Okay, so we're talking about version. Oh, no. Here we go. Version control. I'm going to move this over here. What GitHub is, or Git is a version control system. Okay, so this is a VCS. Any game design job or game development job that you ever see, one of the required skills is going to be like familiarity with VCS. That's all it's going to say. It might have like a specific software, but it's going to say that somewhere, and this is what they mean. So version control system is for software products, and it's basically a way of allowing creating collaboration as well as version control. So version control means that when you're creating software, let's say you have a game and you have a build of your game, and let's call this our alpha build. This is like we make a game and we save all the files and it works and you can play it and that's great. And then, a lot of stuff happens and we decide, actually what we want to do is add a new level to the game or some new feature. So instead of just building on top of this and just adding stuff to this, the new feature might create problems. It might create bugs. So we need to make sure the feature works before we add it to the game that people are playing. This is simplified, but this is basically the idea. So we make a new version of the game. We call this B, and we add our feature. And we do some testing, so then we have there's some bugs, so we fix the bugs. That gives us, B1 something. Then we do some more testing, and we do some other stuff, and we get B2. And then we say, great, B2 works. We're all happy. We're ready to add this feature to our main game. And so what we do is we take A, and we take B2, and we make C. And so that way, A is always available for people who want to play the game, and it works, while our B feature development is being developed. And then we merge them together. We probably do some testing as well, make sure nothing breaks, so we get C1, and C1 becomes the main version of the game. That's basically what version control is. But it allows us to do some cool things. So what we're going to do today is we're going to make a fork of the project. So I have this template. So we'll call this template. The cool thing about version control is you are going to make a fork. So a fork is there's tines on a fork. They go in different directions. That's the idea of a fork. So you're going to make your fork of temp. And so this is the fork. And your fork is a new project. And the cool thing about your fork is basically you're going to say, in my fork, I'm going to add a scene. So let's say this adds level 1. I'm just going to draw some crap. Okay, and then you add another scene. This is level 2, L2. And then, while you were doing that, I was like, actually, what would be really useful is a third-person controller. So I add this new thing that's called temp B. Okay, and you say, actually, you know what? I want a third-person controller in my game. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab, this is called the upstream. So the upstream is the original project that you forked. And the cool thing about a fork is as long as this part still exists, you still know where it was connected. What you're going to be able to do, kind of running out of room, is you're going to say, actually, I really want B. So let's stick B here. And what version control is going to do is it's going to say, okay, you can do that, but here are the parts where they don't match. Like, temp B has a blue background and your game has a red background. So which one do you want? And you can say, okay, I want red. And it's going to be like, okay, good job. Everything else is just going to go over. So it's actually going to look through everything that's different, and it's going to merge them together. So this is called merging. Okay, so we might not have to do that a ton this semester, but what this is going to allow us to do is we'll start with this 3D template. And if I'm demoing something, I'm saying like, this is how you make like a portal, or this is how you make like an NPC. Instead of having to like code everything from scratch, you'll just be able to pull the upstream that I created, and then you can modify the code into your own project. And the VCS is going to merge them together. So that's basically the idea. The other thing that's nice about GitHub in particular, Git is the VCS. Okay, GitHub is a service. It's a cloud service that knows how Git works. Okay. And so the nice thing about that is when you're here and you're working on one of our laptops and you're making your game, if you put everything on Git, it's going to put it up here. And then if you go home and you go to your other computer and you do a bunch of stuff on here, you're going to be able to pull this down from the cloud. And then you're going to get to use version control. So I'm going to make some changes here. So I had A over here. I grab A down here. Then I make B, and I'm going to push B back. And when I go back here, I'm going to grab B. And so these two things are going to be synced. And you can even have like, oh, I have this thing C that I'm working on at home, but it's not done yet, so I'm not going to push it. I'm just going to keep doing stuff here, and then eventually, I'll match them together. So version control is also good for kind of like collaborating with yourself, essentially, on different machines. If you're bringing your laptop, this isn't as big of an issue, but it'll still be useful to keep track of your progress and stuff like that. Okay, so that's how VCS works. What we're going to do is first you're going to create a GitHub account. So if you go to github.com, if you don't already have an account, you're just going to go here and click sign up, and you'll be able to create an account. It's free. It's easy to do. Some of you guys may already have an account. Then you're just going to click sign in. Once you create an account, when you go to this page, what this is going to look like, I'll show you. Am I logged in? I'm not even logged in. So if I log in, I created this thing, so we won't see that. But if you are logged in, let me go to like some random GitHub. I'll go to like the Godot GitHub actually. And we'll see something. Okay, so this is what you're gonna see. So when you create an account and then you go to a GitHub page, a GitHub repo is just basically like a bunch of folders and files that have code usually, but they can have other things. You're gonna see this thing that says fork, and you're gonna click that, and it's gonna make a fork of this project on your GitHub account. So you can do whatever you want to change the project, and it's not gonna change the original project, but you can still grab stuff from the upstream changes that I make later in the semester. You can grab that and pull that into your project. So you're gonna fork first. And once you fork, you're gonna use this program called the GitHub Desktop. And I'll show you what this looks like for a second. So when you first open GitHub Desktop, you should have it on the computer, but if you need to download it, I'll put a link for this in the notes, but the GitHub Desktop is just GitHub download desktop. You can just download it here. I'll put this on Discord actually, and then I'll put it in the notes in a minute. You can download the app. Once you have the app, what you do is you just sign in to your account, and if you're logged in on the browser, it'll just authenticate through the browser, so that should be very easy. And the nice thing is that the GitHub Desktop will connect your computer to your GitHub, et cetera, et cetera. So you can see I'm logged in. I'm gonna click finish. That's easy. And then here you can see your repositories that are online. You're gonna have a fork of this 3D game template. So you're just gonna click on that, and then you're gonna click this clone button. Yeah. Oh, sorry. So I just Googled Godot GitHub. You don't need to do this, but I was just trying to show an example where you see the fork button. but you just need to open up the 3D game template, which is linked here. I'll put a link to that in the Discord as well. So yeah, and we can go over that in a second when I'm done. We'll catch everybody up to speed. Okay, so back in GitHub Desktop, so cloning is not the same as forking. Cloning is making a copy of your code on a different machine. And so the clones are all clones of each other, and you can update them to stay in sync with each other. But this is also going to download the files. So you're going to click clone, and then you're going to choose where you want this to go. So you're going to say choose here, and you're going to want to choose a folder. So you can open that little tab thing or that drop-down thing. And this is the same on Windows, except obviously you're using File Explorer instead of Finder. And then you can put this wherever you want. I tend to put things on my desktop just to make them easy to find, but you could put it in your documents folder if you want. And I'm going to make a new folder for the class called MEA 300, and then I'm going to select this. And so this is something that if you screw this up, we can redo it, but you want to make sure basically that your 3D game template is in a place where you can find it easily and you know where it is, so you can open it up on your computer. When you're done with that, you're just going to click clone, and this is going to show you the repository. And we'll do more stuff with this later, but for now, there's just a few things that you can do. One is show in Finder. You can just click that, and it's going to open it in your Finder or your File Explorer. If you're on Windows, it'll say File Explorer. And so now you're going to have the 3D game template on your computer. You're going to see this project.godot. That's the main file, and you're going to be able to open it in Godot. I won't do that right now. We'll go over that later. But if you see that, then you'll be able to open it later, and you'll be good to go. The other thing that's nice here is that you can click View on GitHub, and this will bring you back to the project on GitHub. You should see your own name here at this point because it's going to be your fork of the project. And I think that's basically it. Once we get to that point for everybody where you have the project on your computer, we're going to be able to start doing some editing in Godot. And then you'll be able to save your changes. And I'll go over this later, but basically once you save your changes, I'll do a quick little example. I'll just make a random, oh, no, I can't do a folder. I'll just make a text file just as an example. So I'm just going to say example. I'm going to save this in here as example. And so what you're going to notice is that when you go back to GitHub, so I'm back in my GitHub desktop here, GitHub sees that I made this new file. And what I can do is I can add this file back to my repository. So I'm not going to do that right now. I'll go over that later in class when we are doing some more stuff. But that way you'll be able to sync stuff with your home computer or another computer lab or wherever. Okay, so let's pause there and make sure everybody gets up to this point where you have a copy of the 3D game template and it's a fork on your own account. So I'll write down those steps in another text document. And I need to update our notes with some of these links. So step 1, create GitHub account to fork the 3D game template. Step 3, sign into GitHub desktop. Step 4, clone your fork of 3D game template. Okay, so once everybody does that, then we'll move on to the next part.